Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment you are going to hear the voice of a man who will tell you some tremendously important facts.
Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm so excited today. I have Hallowell of the Anahata codes. Now, we're going to have so much cool stuff to talk about. Holly is a number of things. She's an alchemist, a magician. She's written some amazing books on waterbending and the Anahata codes. Something I've shared with my channel is the idea of using numeric codes to quantify different portions of the multiverse. And Holly is a channeler and has two amazing books. She has a book on waterbending that really taught me a lot about how to up my game in using water and its magical properties. And I'm so excited to have her come on. And thank you for coming on, Holly. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.
Oh my gosh, it is so awesome to be here. I love your content, your vibe, your tribe. And we're all starting to speak the same language. So I knew when I sent you my book that you were going to read it and go, oh yes, because now's the time. We're forming these little hubs around the globe and we're connecting the dots and we're expanding together and we're remembering these ancient techniques that are actually the way things work, and we're expanding upon them. And the time is now. Everyone's ready to hear it. I don't know if you're like me, 8 years ago when I was talking about this stuff, people's eyes would, just glaze over and they'd be like, I don't understand. Now people get it. And it's just so intriguing that, I'm excited for you because you have such a big following and people really are tuning in to this new reality. And I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's exciting. So I'd like to get some background on this. The thing I'm talking about here is the Anahata codes, and you can see it, my page is all crinkled up and I've been using it. And we've talked on the channel about using quantum codes and Grabovoi codes, and there's golden codes of Shambhala, the sacred codes. There's some amazing collections of codes. Yours is different in particular because you're giving numeric sequences for physical objects, for elements, for crystals. And so there's a lot of associations, numbers for serotonin, thyroid gland hormones, a lot of differentiation. So you channeled this information. Tell me more about how you came to writing that particular book.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think everyone's expansive story begins with sort of a breakdown of the old. And so I had like a early midlife crisis in my 30s. And I was like, things were going wrong, just lost my job. The invention that I had was taken by someone. I was a single mom struggling. I was in a dysfunctional relationship. I really wasn't single, but basically nothing was going my way. And I knew innately that I was made for more. And so what I did, instead of trying harder or giving up, I said, I surrender. And I just said, God, what do you want me to do with my life? Where do you want me to be? You have the answers, not me. And I surrendered. And that was it. I was then out of my own way and I was taken to the places that I needed to go and see and hear. And I sort of had a clean slate because I had nothing interfering with my field. And so as I was seeking these answers, they were seeking me. And it was this beautiful aha. Layer by layer, I understood that we're more than just our physical bodies. We are emotional beings, and that thought combined with emotions magnetizes your circumstances. And then I decided, I want to be the author of my life. I don't want to be feeling like the external world is happening to me anymore. I'm going to rise up. I'm going to take ownership of my entire energy field. And so I started working with the emotion code and other energy modalities. And I knew that there was something that I was meant to bring forth. And so in the midst of my darkness, and I surrendered, I received this powerful download. And it's not new. I just heard it in a new bandwidth. Basically, what happened was I said, what do you want me to know? And the answer I received was that we are already connected to everything, and that physicality is very much an illusion. It's not real. We are 99% energy and information. And actually, we're connected to everything. We're experiencing our own individuality through our bodies and our senses, our seeing, tasting, touching, feeling, smelling. But really, we don't have to have the herb to activate a healing response. We don't have to buy the crystal to tap into that resonance because we're already connected to it. And so this was all gestating, and I could feel this information coming in around my field for about 30 days. So you can imagine by the end, I was like, I just said one night, really angrily, I was at that point where I was like, what do you want me to know? And I sort of yelled it, and I turned out the lights, and my head hit the pillow, and I was like, boo. All this information came in at once. I sat up, I wrote it down, and I started channeling the assisting frequencies known as the Anahata codes. And that was 8 years ago. And as you said, there's many codes because numbers are the language of the universe. Anything can be described in numbers. Now, we're looking at the screen right now. That's just zeros and ones. You know, think about how much more you have as an alchemist when you add in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the spaces. And so I started channeling the codes, started with the crystal category. We have 34 or 35 categories and growing now. And it's just been my life's work. I absolutely adore it. And it's different than other codes because other codes give you that thing, whereas this is reconnecting you to the essence of what you already have. So when you decipher that you need a code, you're actually, the code is the portal. The activation is your remembrance that you're already connected to that. And so there's no force, it's adaptogenic, you know, it's up or down precisely as needed. No two people will activate the same code in the same way because no two people need that reminder in the same way. And it's just really another tool to empower people to remember who they are, what they have access to, and that they're the sole author of their life. And that's why I love what I do. People use the codes for physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And I don't know if you've tried what I put at the beginning of the book is go in your heart space, take a few breaths, and then ask, is there an assisting frequency that will fill in the blank? It can be a mental issue, physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever you desire, or there's a concern, whatever it is. It works both ways, and you just quiet your mind and the page number will come to you. You'll open that page and you'll say, okay, there's 7 codes on that page. Which one do I need? And it's absolutely incredible. The results are beyond statistics that people are pulling the code that makes the most sense to them. When you look up the definition, well, what is this thing that I asked for? And you're like, oh my gosh, I see how it checks off all of the things that I'm looking for. And so that total restoration, that return to wholeness is really what the codes do for you. And there is no force. As I said, it's adaptogenic. So they are different, but similar to the codes that are already out in Gaia at this time. So
it's amazing. And I have a sort of theory that we're all entering into an Akashic field where we have access at all times to the memories of everyone. And as more and more people identify or link a certain numerical sequence to something, maybe it's a crystal or an energy or something, then the next time somebody sees that code, they're connecting in the field to that other person that access it. More and more people access it. It doesn't matter if the number is specific for that, but you're creating a sort of multiversal indexing system that I mean, it's hard. If I sit and want to imagine, if I want to sit and imagine quartz crystal, that's even just the word itself is not that specific. There's a lot of different quartz crystals and the energy, but if I can identify a numeric sequence, it's specific. It's almost like we'll have eventually in the future a phone book for us to travel the multiverse. We can put in a phone. Hey, I want to live happily ever after. That's code. No. And I want I want to have this particular element or thing or whatever it is, whatever energy it is, and we'll be able to just access it like a computer code. And so that's why it's so fascinating to me. And you're the first person of all the research I've done, the first person that's gone further with the codes and identified a huge, vast number of different things. Horoscopes,
Oh,
so much, animals, so much that you've done.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I just want to touch on that. That thought of the multiverse, in fact, is reality. We just have forgotten. And, you know, we are the neurons of Gaia. We are the thinking components. And you're correct, when we fire and wire together, we're creating new hubs of reality that collapse the wave function into manifestation. And so the more people that use each of the codes, and as the codes grow, it empowers us all to create that structure that's very stable, very reliable within our matrix of neuron activity. And so this is where this threshold of people who are taking back their power, it's so important, because together we're literally transforming matter. And that, I believe, is ascension. You know, we're doing this together. We're creating the new world together, and everyone makes a difference. Everyone counts, and everyone's perspective. I think it was Nassim Haramein who said, you are informing the field all the time, and what you're informing it and your responses to what you're saying, and I'm ad-libbing, but you know, it's actually a feedback loop, right? So as we go, ooh, that's quartz crystal, and that's the meaning, and that's the power, it's actually being circulated around for more people to activate, access. And as you said, in the future, there's going to be more and more indexes, ways that we can go boop, tap into that. So it's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the other book that you wrote is on waterbending, and it's also
Yeah.
very fascinating. I've taught about using water in some episodes and charging water, and I've had some great experience in doing that.
Yeah.
You know, this is a little different than the Anahata codes. What inspired you to write this about this in particular, and tell me a little bit more of
Sure.
how we can do
Yeah.
waterbending and
So
how it works.
yeah, so this is gonna be a ride for all of you guys who are also part of Lemuria, the Muan, 17,000 years ago. I'm a Christian, by the way. I'm a non-denominational Christian. And so there was a period of my life where I didn't even believe in past lives and that kind of thing, because that wasn't part of what I was brought up in. And only when I sort of zoomed out of religion as a whole and began a personal relationship with Jesus that involved waterbending, because he was a waterbender too. He could walk on water. He could turn water into wine, right? All these cool things. He was the master alchemist. And so anyway, I'm sitting in my kitchen and very relaxed, making dinner. And I took the something from the sink over to the island. And as I turned, and there's something about it was like a turn, basically. I had shifted, and suddenly I see, and I'm a Pisces ×3, so I'm psychic. I have visions all the time. I have, you know, this is just the norm because I have, you know, I have Sun, Moon, and Mercury all in Pisces. So very, very watery as it is. But anyway, so I turn and I have this vision. And it's sort of like if you went on vacation before phones and you had an album of all the photos you had from that vacation, and you put it away on a shelf and you don't think about it for 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe a lifetime. And suddenly you take it off the shelf and you open it and you see one picture and you go, oh my God, I remember that. And all of these other memories associated with that come flooding back. Well, it was that I saw myself with a pomegranate seed, and I was putting it underneath my tongue, and I was scanning my body. Now, mind you, there were no words. I just saw it and remembered. I was like, oh my God, yes. Now, there's a reason why it's pomegranates, and there's a lot of sacredness in that nectar and the shape of the pomegranate, what it means, etc. But I was, you know, putting it in there, scanning the vibration of my body. My bio water was speaking to the water inside the pomegranate, and it was holding it. And then I was taking the seed out of my mouth and putting it in water. And I could see the energy and information being held and fractalized out into the water molecules. And it was this beautiful, like, potion. And what was happening after that was really bizarre. But the more I researched the why and how, I was like, well, that's how it works. At the center of every water molecule is a wormhole that's connected to Akasha, to the non-physical library of everything. And so you can basically put in your order. You can say, oh, I need this balance, this toned down, this toned up, whatever it is. Your biowater will tell the water in the pomegranate that information. You drop it in the water, you wait, and then you drink the water, and you're delivering the vibration of the balance of whatever it is you need. You're activating that from Akasha. It's extraordinary. And then when you dive into like the science of it, it gets more and more obvious. Water, when it's structured, is light memory. And if you look at the root of the word water, it actually means light memory. That's why my book's called Light Memory. And so it gets fascinating when you look at the sacred geometry of the Merkaba, which is the star tetrahedron, and the vortex. That's the wormhole there in the center. That's the function that is connected beyond our space-time that we are pulling through in that wormhole. So it gets really interesting really quick, but this was stuff I was doing in a past life, and we literally could walk on water. And this too is not something like, whoa, that's amazing. No, we were actually prolonging, we oscillate in and out of physicality about 7 times per second, they say. Mm-hmm. So, it's electromagnetic fields that hold things, in place, but really we're in and out of wave, particle. And so what we were doing as Muans, which I think someday we'll be able to figure out, I think it has to do with sound. We can elongate our wave. And so then we use the surface tension of water, and we can walk on water because we're no longer carbon-based density. We are light. And so this was stuff we were doing. And I was just like, holy crud. And it was so perfectly attuned with my previous work with Anahata codes that I was like, I couldn't have understood it then. But after almost 8 years of channeling the codes, at the time it was 6 years of channeling the codes, I was ready for that next nugget of evolution. And I began waterbending, I call it. And then, of course, students were getting amazing success scanning, but some of them couldn't find pomegranates that weren't, whole. So they were always, they weren't good. And so I thought, well, what else would work? Lemurian crystals, right? Quartz crystals, they hold energy and information just like a wrapper, because I've been working with crystals for years. So I was like, oh, that's it. We put that under our tongue, we scan, and we put it in water, and boom, we can do the same thing. And so that kind of birthed the book. I wrote the book in 5 weeks. So if you do pick one up, guys, there's lots of typos. Just ignore them. I'm not one for perfectionism anymore. I'm like, get it out there. And so I wrote it in 5 weeks. I've been teaching it for about 1.5 years. Edition 2 is coming, but people, and this is just scraping the surface as to what you can do with water, because water is a liquid crystalline supercomputer, and it's connected to Akasha in crazy ways. And actually, I want to say this before I forget. This revelation, when I start looking at sacred geometry and hermetic principles and how all of this works on a scientific level, it's interesting to note that, the 5 plutonic solids, earth, air, fire, water, ether, they each have their own geometry. And for water, it's icosahedron. For ether, it's the dodecahedron. And guess what? The water icosahedron is actually outside the dodecahedron. So it's the container of even the ether. That's a huge revelation, because we bypass that on planet Earth a lot. We forget that we are water, that water is life, and that if we didn't have, if we see through our skin, we would be water. You'd be like, wow, we are water. And anyway, that's just touching on that, how that came back into my memory. And it's been fascinating to follow up on, but how? Because I'm very open to visions, but then I'm very analytical at the same time. I'm like, but how? And so I've been following that lead for the past 1.5 years, and some new crazy cool stuff coming in, with timeline jumping and some really different ways to leverage water as the next manifestation hack, basically.
Well, sometimes it feels like even though we're in space walking around and the water is separate, that we're actually still in water now. Like the whole universe is fluid. All of space is fluid. And so when we observe water and on this planet, we're just observing a form of water that's condensed in front of us, but we're actually constantly moving through water. Water is the substance of all things, right? It might evaporate or
It's so
turn into a
true.
cloud. So
Yep.
you're saying put the crystal under my tongue and do it like that.
Yeah, not that one. I wouldn't put that one under there because there can be all sorts of harmful minerals, and if it's
been cleaned, yeah.
friable, that means yeah. So I have these little water bending rocks. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, probably not. These are Lemurian quartz crystals, and there's no holes in them, and these are tiny, right? And I attuned them. I gave them jobs, right?
Right.
I do this blessing where I make sure they know what they're doing, and they're really excited about it. They're like, oh yes, I get to do that. And so then there's 3 ways to scan. You can literally scan in a code from the book, right? Let's say you need catfish. So anyone watching this, look up totem animal catfish. I'm betting the majority of you need that. It's just how it works. So then I take the crystal and I literally scan it like a barcode, and you can see that the numbers going inside the crystal. And then you do that 7 times. There's reasons for this, but this is the cliff notes. You place it in water, you let it sit for 6 hours, and then you drink the water. Don't drink the crystal. And voila, you are resonating on, and actually then the water that you're drinking is speaking to every water molecule in your body, which is 99% of you molecularly, and pulling through the wormhole and getting all of you on board with all of you. So this is beyond like, think it and it'll be so. Right. It's like you're a vibrational match to it at that point, which is the key to everything, is being in resonance with whatever it is you want to experience, rather than discordant to it. And so you become that. This is very, you first become it and then it comes, not after it arrives, but before. And so, boy, lickety split. And then, you can scan your bio water. I talk about this in the book. There's Ayurveda doshas. You have tri-energies within your body, balancing all of your mechanisms. And so you can optimize simply by putting the water bending rock under there and scanning your bio needs. And the third way is my absolute favorite. This is how I manifested my dream man. It was the day of Valentine's Day, a year and a half ago. And I was like, I'm going to manifest my soulmate. So I took my water bending rock and I put it under my tongue. And I imagined the wish fulfilled. I imagined traveling around the world on a boat with this beautiful man who totally understood me, and I wasn't wishing for it. It was a thing. It was already happening. I was there. Right. I could feel his arms around me and the places we were going. And I just took one deep breath of gratitude, because I knew he was coming, and it was already it was done. It's like having a future memory as the right. past. And so I literally took the rock out, put it in water. The next day I drank it, and within 24 hours I met him. And for the last year and a half, I've been traveling around the globe on a yacht.
Oh, wow.
No joke.
That is amazing.
That's how fast it happened. I was like, So yeah. And anyone can do it. I'm not special, right? This is just the laws. It's like miracles are things we just don't understand how they work, but they're working regardless of if we believe them. And so it can work for anyone, those 3 ways to scan. So anyway.
That's amazing. So, I'm definitely going to be looking for some smaller crystals, and I'm going to be getting started on that process. And everybody needs to get the Anahata Codes book.
I'll send you some. I thought I did send you some, but I'll send you more.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So my question is about channeling. Tell me about your process of channeling. How do you differentiate the words that come in, the words that come in as you're channeling? Do you have a process to prepare yourself from channeling? Do you ever feel like you're accessing some other voice or energy that's distinct from another? And do you have a way of filtering, just because they're talking to you and channeling, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a good resource, right? So there's a filtering process where you
Right,
just, right?
exactly. Yeah, so for me, and this will either resonate with you or not, I say take what does and leave the rest. I don't listen to any sort of external entity whatsoever. I don't hear voices. I simply disengage from my identity, who I am in this lifetime, body, name, and I go into a space of total unification, which is the source point, which is Anahata. And I quiet all of my monkey brain thoughts, right? And I don't assume anything. I just am. And if I'm channeling the code, I don't teach people how to do this because it gets very personal as to what you're pulling through. But because I was given the information and started the indexing process, I have my own unique way of tapping into that unification field beyond me into everything, and I become whatever it is that I'm channeling, right? So if it's a pomegranate, I go into I am a pomegranate, and I just sit there and I marinate in the essence. And then I begin to hear the code, the sequence. And the spaces are just as important as the digit. And you say each digit singly, you don't, if it's 369, you don't say 369, you say 369. And that's how I do it. The elements were the funnest because it was this weird, I was wanting to just channel a few, and I ended up channeling all of them. And every time I was on a beach in my channeling process, not physically, mentally, and they were coming as waves, and they were compounding on each other and building on each other. And I was each of the elements, and it was this bizarre, like a shaman journey for that one. But usually it's essence by essence, and it's very focused, and I become that thing, and I'm not communicating or listening to any entity or one thing. It's like communion with the aspect of unity that I already am, and I become that thing, and I translate the essence into a code so that everyone can resonate with that quality, that expansive. It's more of a definition as well. It's the totality of the definition. It's not like specific aspects. It is the thing in entirety. It's a wild ride, and but I don't teach that part of it because, as you said, you can be getting crazy information from who knows where. It's like tuning in a radio. If you're going to be channeling, you really need to know, your boundaries, who you're communicating with, why, what's the purpose, and you don't want to be manipulated in any way, because obviously that's counterproductive, but numbers can do harm as well. So I encourage everyone, do your research. Who is this person channeling? What are they channeling? What do they say the code will do? Because you could be activating discordant qualities as well. So see what feels right for you, and tap into, what you get results through, and what you feel good about doing would be my advice.
Right.
So
you also wrote a book, The 21-Day Fear Detox, correct? Assisting frequencies to remap the fear defaults. So you talk about fear. It's important. We live in a world that is seemingly between fear and love in all moments. It's such a simple dichotomy. In the world seems to be complicated and complex, but really it's are you choosing fear or love on a regular basis? And it's a detox. You can get addicted to fear in your body. There can be a point where you've created circuits in your neurology where you need the fear. It releases chemicals that your brain have become addicted to. So we have to detox from it. It's not as simple as just choosing things that are not fearful, right?
Right.
So
you're so right. And it's a remapping. It's a total remapping, because in our bodies we feel like this is me, Holly, and you are Brian, and everyone's separate, and we get attached to our identities, and our self-sabotage only occurs when we want something that we don't have, but it's not us yet. I think you talk about it too, the gap, right? We want to be here, but we're here, and we try and get there, but there's all sorts of mayhem that happens as we're transversing the hero's journey to get to where we want to be. Meanwhile, we get to choose, like, what are the things I want to keep? What are the things I want to edit? And you bet we are addicted to our dysfunction because it's who we are. It makes us feel normal. And so it's a detox, as you said. You need to totally rewrite, right? And here's the thing, it's a subconscious remapping because we are 99% water molecularly, 70% scientifically. The water of our body is light memory. It's holding the resonance of our memories. And so if you want to rewrite your subconscious, which is a vast majority of who you are, we only think about 10% of the time. The 90% is on default. And so if you really want to get all of you on board with all of you, you've got to address your subconscious mapping, which is water. And so when you use the codes in conjunction with the waterbending techniques that I give you, you literally reprogram your subconscious on a physical level, which then echoes out into transformation that your ego mind is okay with, because that's the gatekeeper, right? It's like, hey, wait, where are you going? You're not going over there. That's not you, because you haven't done that before. And you get snapped back. It's like why New Year's resolutions don't work, right? And so we are creatures of habit. And if we want to break free of those, we need to stop firing those thoughts and emotions and refire and wire new potentials as default, so that just becomes who we are, the way we live, the way we act. And that's why fear detox is such a critical component to say, I'm no longer going to choose doubt, indecision, fear, worry, hate, anger. And I want to caution people, I'm not whitewashing. Those emotions are absolutely to be honored. They aren't to be suppressed or denied or disowned. You simply zoom out and you say, oh, here's where I am on the map. Where do I want to be? And then you take the steps to edit and choose anew. And those things become you. And I think it was Joe Dispenza that says, your personality becomes your personal reality. And the cool news is we can edit. We can edit anything. We can be anything we want to be. We can redo. We can override. And, water science is a beautiful way to gently integrate versus, abruptly trying to be something we aren't. We can become much more easily. And as you said, the key is fear detox. Just letting those things go. We don't need to hold on to them anymore. They don't need to be our reality on a continual basis. Most of the time, we don't even understand where they came from. We have ancestral garbage, past lives. The epigenetic component of the conversation is massive. Epigenetics is an up and coming science, and they're finding that. And think about what that is. The DNA helix, what's around it? What's epi, upon, around? It's water. Like, that's what epigenetics is. It's the energy and information encoded around the water of your DNA that is expressing. And sometimes you don't even know where that came from. It'd be your grandma's grandfather who had a bad experience with monkeys, and you're afraid of monkeys for no reason, right? Well, there's a reason, but we can edit. And so, yeah, cool stuff.
Amazing. So you were inspired to do this. Had you had any struggles of fear on your own that you went through to go through this?
Yeah, so that's it. That's the thing, is a lot of teachers think that they have to be ready to teach. And I say, and many people have said, the best way to learn something well is to teach it. And so, and when you're marinating in that SHIT, that's the most potent time. So if we can get out of our way and say, I'm not perfect, I'm not done, I'm learning, but I'm going to share as I go. That's the most, I think, effective way to teach, and people can relate because it feels like you know them so well. So like the Fear Detox book, that was me going, what do I want to work through? Oh, there's this, and what code would be good? And I would think of a subject regarding fear, and I would pull a code. I would quiet my mind and go, oh, it's on this, this part of the spreadsheet. Back then it wasn't a book yet. And I would go, well, what is this thing? And I would look it up, and it would be the perfect answer. So I would write a paragraph about that medicine and put the code in, and that became the 21-day fear detox. So absolutely, it was inspired from beginning to end by My Mess, which is my fourth book that you haven't mentioned, which is Mess into Medicine. It's a journal to help you really work through your own stuff and birth your own magic in an easy way that's not feeling overwhelming or like you don't have the answers, because you do. So yeah, fun stuff.
It's Your Mess into Medicine journal. Uncover and actuate your perpetual purpose and joy. That one I need to still read. You got a great library started so far, and it looks like you're prolific and you got lots more coming. So that's exciting. And I love how they all come together. So if you're looking for the waterbending book, you look up Light Memory and Alchemist's Guide to Waterbending. It has so much more than just talking about water. You're talking about a lot of the stuff you mentioned, alchemy and Mu and Atlantis, and it's interesting. I found it very interesting. I've read accounts of our past where we use the water, the memory of the water was maintained for a long time for this earth to be born. That's where the memory of all the DNA existed. And so we're tapping into that. We're moving into a period where we're tapping into that, and it's exciting. So
it is. And actually, I would like to say one droplet of water, now they're finding that they may have to leverage the memory of water in computers and things, because they're finding, as Rumi said, you're not a drop of water in the ocean, you're the entire ocean in a drop. They're finding that water is holographic in nature and carries the whole, which of course it does, but that it not only holds information inside the water molecule, but around it in the ether. So it's sort of like, wow, you can envision this drop of water that has access to the totality of everything in one drop. And it's like, well, you can't beat that with any type of memory that they've got on the market right now. Let's just go for water science.
So perhaps there will be advanced computing in the future that will use water, like silicon chips, where water will become the primary key to the computing memory once we reach a point where we can understand its elements and its effects. And it may be beyond technology. I mean, our minds are already doing it. Our minds are using water as memory already. So it's super fascinating. So it's Holly Hallowell. Everybody can find the Anahata codes, the law of attraction of energy medicine, directory of codes, light memory, and Alchemist's Guide to Waterbending, and 21-day fear detox. And you have you can look you up on the internet at waterbendingrocks.com and also masteralchemistcourse.com. And you have a very cool Facebook group, Assisting Frequency, where people can come together and talk about how they've used these techniques and shared in their success stories, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Come on in. Everyone's welcome. All layers of, all levels of alchemists. You could be totally clueless and just know you want to learn more, or you could be very advanced. We have people who are young, old, every part of the world, and we're here together, because that's the last thing I want to mention is my next book is going to be called Grid for Gaia, and it's fractalizing out the Hermetic philosophy of as above, so below, and how we can actually make changes to our own grid and then project that out onto the ley lines of Gaia to create true harmony and resonance as a globe, because Gaia is a living being. We are the neurons of Gaia. So we're going to come together. I'm going to start teaching more about that, involving a lot of alchemy, a lot of sacred geometry, the codes, waterbending, terahertz. There's a frequency from this device actually that actually also amplifies all of this. And we're going to take it global, because that's what we need to do in this time of fear-based manipulation and censorship. We need to go, oh no, we know who we are, and we know that we're creating the world from the inside out, and we take back our power and become soul authors of our life. And we start mapping the grid for love and pulling back all of those tentacles of density that keep us entrapped in this 3D. And then boom, we're here. We're in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. So it's just really, really fun to think about the massive shifts that we're creating as a group. So come on in, and we'd love to see you there.
It's fantastic. That book sounds amazing, and I'm very excited to check it out as soon as it comes out. So So Holly Hallowell, thank you so much. It's been an honor. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I can't wait to talk to you again about this. And welcome to the Reality Revolution.